Hello YouTube. I have been conducting my own investigation of the underwater humanoids of the great Russian lake Baikal, and I have been at it since early 1990s. And a lot of my research has been borrowed by others, so to say. But anyway, please look at the attached playlist. Today I want to tell you about some very brave people who know the lake very well, and they have had their own sightings. But let me start with this. The Ministry of the Russian Federation for Civil Defense, Emergencies and Elimination of Consequences of Natural Disasters is a very active ministry. There are units in the Search and Rescue Service of the Ministry of Emergency Situations of Russia that cannot be called anything else but unique. First of all, they include the Baikal Search and Rescue Squad, and it's a powerful, well-staffed universal rescue unit operating on the territory of three constituent entities of the Russian Federation. At the very end of the Baikal Tract, in front of the famous Listvyanka, there is a small village of Nikola. It was here, at the place where the Angara River begins its journey from Lake Baikal, that the base of the Baikal Search and Rescue Squad was established, and whose areas of responsibility included the water area of Lake Baikal and coastal territories up to the watershed line, at a considerable distance from the coastline, up to 25 to 30 kilometers. Employees of the Baikal Search and Rescue Squad, abbreviated in Russian as BPSO, and that's how I will refer to it. Anyway, they work not only at the Great Lake itself. They are called to places where sports training skills of a climber, diver, raftsman are needed. Every rescuer should be able to climb rocks and descend to the depths, be ready for an exhausting mountain crossing. More than once, the BPSO employees during rescue operations have encountered reckless behavior not only of beginners but also of highly experienced instructors, and in many extreme situations, to make a mistake means to endanger the lives of their comrades. In addition to inadequate human behavior, rescuers have to deal with amazing, inexplicable phenomena that Lake Baikal presents to people, and I've mentioned quite a lot of it in my other videos, and will continue to do so. But let's start with the underwater wonders, so to say. Baikal is a rather specific place. It is also called Baikal Graben. The last word in German means grave. According to Viktor Gulevich, seasonal rescuer in BPSO, and I'll talk to him later too, the shores are diverging and the bottom is sinking. We know that the maximum depth of the Great Lake is 1,642 meters, while the real distance to the bottom is 12 kilometers. The entire thickness is filled with precipitation. Of course, there are geomagnetic disturbances that impact sensitive people in some way. Viktor Gulevich himself toured the entire Baikal and even visited one of the most mystical territories of the Great Lake, the Cape Ryti. And for all the years of his service, he has not encountered unexplained events. The rescuer had a chance to observe paranormal phenomenon during the rest period that he had, like a vacation, with his wife. So late in the evening, together with his wife, he witnessed the following event. A glowing ball, like a sphere, similar to a huge star, flew out from behind the mountains. The object moved absolutely noiselessly. Then a beam came out of it towards the earth. Soon the UFO disappeared. It didn't look like a helicopter, and there couldn't be a helicopter in this place at night. One of the most interesting events, which greatly surprised the rescuers of the Search and Rescue Squad, occurred during the cleaning of the Lake Baikal from sunken cars. In the Strait of Malaya Moria, where there are the most fishing places, there are especially many of them, according to another BPSO rescuer, Viktor Gulevich. The rescuers have raised a lot of old cars entangled in nets, And then they found Gas 66 vehicle, and there was a woman inside, and the body was well preserved. The locals warned them that a shaman drowned there, which is better not to get to, but the rescuers decided to finish the job. Whether the cabin was tightly closed, that the Epishura did not get there. The Epishura are crustaceans that are like the orderlies of Baikal, they clean it up, or for some other reasons, inexplicable from a rational point of view, the shaman's body remained intact. But when they took it out of the water, it began to fall apart, literally before their eyes. In addition, after a short period of time, a strong hurricane wind came. So now the BPSO rescuers know, if they, the locals, say do not touch something, it's better to listen to these words. Rescuers have long learned that it is necessary not only to listen to the words of people, but also to look closely at the signs that the Great Lake sends them from time to time. Once two UAZ trucks drowned in Lake Baikal, says Anton Reshetnikov, an engineer of the BPSO Information and Analytical Service. The operation to lift them was led by Valery Chernych, a diving training teacher. Rescuers sought out the lane, began to search, and suddenly an earthquake occurred, as a result of which a dead crack passed very close to the place where the equipment was laid out. They decided not to conduct more descents that day. When the divers went out on the ice the next day, there was another earthquake. The guys thought that the Baikal did not want to give back what it took, and it was decided not to lift the car. The rescuers do not call the following story anything but a miracle. In 2006, the boat Kalmar capsized on the Lake Baikal and 5 people were killed. Only one passenger survived. He spent the whole night in wet clothes on an overturned boat, while a storm raged on the Lake Baikal and there were sub-zero November temperatures. The man was of southern blood, meaning from warmer climate lands, and frankly could not boast of a fat layer, Anton Reshetnikov recalled. When he was torn off from the bottom of the boat to which he was frozen, he moved on his own feet. His frostbite, but he was alive and conscious. I can only call it a miracle. The man himself explained his salvation as follows: I prayed all the time. And Anton Reshetnikov added, we conducted an experiment. In a special warm suit, a person can stay in the water of Lake Baikal for a maximum of 40 minutes. So the case of the boat Kalmar defies any logical explanation, as a number of other things on that lake do. The lifeguard Vyacheslav Lavrentiev, who is engaged in sailing, became a witness of another absolutely amazing case that took place in November of 2022. The race was over and the 3 yachts without sails were going home on the Lake Baikal. We were having dinner, and at dusk we saw the lake begin to glow. It seemed that a huge headlight lit up from under the water. According to the rules, so that nothing interferes with the race, we put all cell phones in one box, so we didn't have time to remove anything. Unfortunately, we only have oral testimony from the members of the 3 crews. The headlight didn't just glow, it moved and then disappeared behind the mountains. Viktor Gulevich, the head of the Search and Rescue Service of the Russian Emergencies Ministry, began his story about the terrible events that occur from time to time in the mountains of the region, from Munku Sardik Peak. A place where something always happens is how the expert described this mountain. The season opens in May. Hundreds of people make ascents, told Viktor Gulevich. Someone is prepared for a hike and someone has no idea how to behave in the mountains. The saddest thing is that many people do not understand what a serious and dangerous event this is. Tourists lead children by the hand. Most of them are absolutely not equipped, considering the way up the mountain they consider it to be like a nonsense. Munku Sardik Peak is the highest point of the eastern Sayans. Its height is 3,491 meters. According to the expert, those who are not crazy stay at the altitude of 2,700 meters. There is a lake and a post with rescuers. 2,700 meters for an unprepared person is already a good result, but many do not stop at it. A person spends a whole year in the office and then decides to run uphill with friends. He is not trained, his muscles are weak, so when approaching the top, people often feel bad. By the standards of climbers, Munku Sardik has a level of 1B. This is a categorized mountain, and before climbing it, you need to be trained to be able to handle an ice axe, walk in bundles, carry cats, and so forth. Few of the conquerors of the mountain can do it. The pre-summit section of Munku Sardik is very badly destroyed. Rescuers hung ropes there, from which you can hold on to when climbing, but this area is quite loose. If someone walks in front of you, rocks fall from above. A couple of years ago, a stone or a rock hit a girl in the chest at the pre-summit site. The rescuer tried to resuscitate the unfortunate person but could not do an indirect heart massage. The chest was broken and the girl died. As mentioned above, in mountain hike, the life of its participants largely depends on the decisions of the group leaders, who despite their experience can ruin their ward's experience and more. The story that took place in the 1990s on the Hamar Daban Ridge is indicative in this regard. The newly formed PSO detachment had to take out 6 deceased people from the ridge. It was at the end of August. Snow may already fall in the mountains during this period, according to Viktor Gulevich. The group was walking above the forest border. At this time, heavy rain began to fall, and people froze. Despite this, they continued to walk in order to meet the schedule and meet the second group at the appointed time. After a while, soaked through, people began to put up tents to keep warm, but it was quite difficult to do it outside in the forest, so because of the piercing wind. Of the 5 people, only the girl was saved. She went down to the edge of the forest, lit a fire there and warmed up. Then she went up to the snowy river where she was picked up. All the girl's comrades died. The schoolgirl later said that before her death, the group was seized by a real madness. One of the guys was banging his head on the rocks, and the leader behaved inappropriately. Signs of severe hypothermia sometimes look like insanity, according to rescuers. You remember the Dyatlov Pass? Look at my videos. The bodies were scattered at a distance from each other. Someone tried to cover himself with cellophane film to keep warm. They had the guy in charge held one of the guys in her arms. Apparently she was trying to warm him up. In the mountains, where a critical situation arises instantly, rich experience can play a cruel joke. Viktor Gulevich continued, if you are the most experienced professor of tourism, as soon as you start doing something wrong, the mountains do not forgive a mistake. For example, the honored master of sports and mountain tourism, who visited the Eastern Sayans 7 times, died in an avalanche while descending from the pass. He stopped on a snowfield, which should not be stepped on in any case. With his experience, he couldn't help but know that the avalanche was not too big, about 100 cubic meters. The guy who was with the master was he was hit by rocks, and the master himself hit his temple on a rock and died. In the fall, rescuers had to evacuate the body of a man who came there in sneakers from the eastern Sayan mountains. There are 2 weather conditions in the mountains. Either it blows or it blows very hard. It is either cold or very cold at night, explains the first-class lifeguard Vyacheslav Lavrentiev. It started snowing and the would-be hikers froze. They had poor equipment. Tourists did not know how to tie knots. The instructor had to take these points into account, but for some reason he was not interested in the level of training of the people for whom he was responsible. During the ascent, it was necessary to make a difficult transition around the cliff. One person from the group tied himself with a rope and got stuck. He hung on a rock, and he made a wrong knot, like a lynch knot, on which the longer you hang, the more it squeezes you. While people fell into a stupor and could not help their friend in any way. When the rescuers arrived at the place, the man had already died from hypothermia. Today, the federal state government institution, the BPSO Baikal detachment, formed 20 years ago, is indeed one of the best search and rescue formations in Russia. More than 260 people work in search and rescue units located along the entire circumference of the Lake Baikal. On the basis of the chief or main detachment in Nikola, almost 200 of them are certified rescuers. So they see things out there, and I will follow their exploits, and of course other units around the Lake Baikal, because if you look at my videos, you will see that the Russian FSB, the modern day KGB, and other agencies are very much interested in Lake Baikal, as well as the Russian neighbors, the Chinese. So something is going on in the Lake Baikal, and I've brought you the story of the underwater aliens, but I don't think that story has ended. So please look at my videos and my future ones. Please support my research through the links you'll find in the description to this video. Please subscribe to my channel and tell others. Thank you.